us now is Luke Lando, who has been serving the Hazel Park community on their city council since 2021 and is now with us on the Michigan Megacast. Luke, thanks for joining us.
Thanks for having me, Tyler. Appreciate it.
Appreciate having you on. So first, tell us a little bit about your background and what ultimately brought you to Hazel Park.
My background is I'm from the Upper Peninsula of Michigan, lived there for most of my life, and then slowly started moving farther and farther south. I graduated from college in Northern Michigan University, and then I moved to Traverse City to work for a United States congressman. And then after he retired, I came down to the Hazel Park area to pursue law school, which never ended up happening, and to be closer to my wife's family. We settled in Hazel Park because it was just a great location, inexpensive housing, and solid amenities. And ended up being here for a few years before there was a vacancy on city council, and I applied and was lucky enough to be appointed, and in November I was elected to a full 4-year term.
So what inspired you to seek that appointment and later seek a full term in the election?
Yeah, so they had the appointment available. I had previous experience sort of in government. You know, I worked for a congressman. I worked for the Michigan Department of Attorney General before exiting politics in 2018. But I always felt that pull and that call to public service. And once the appointment came, I thought it would be a really unique opportunity to serve the town that I was, so happy to be a resident of. And I think that by and large, youth. I mean, I'm not super young, but by terms of politics, I'm the youngest person on council. I think it's important to participate if you have the means, time, and ability. And so I applied and received an appointment for a very partial term. I think it was like a 10 month term. So the expectation for me was that, I'd be seeking a full 4-year term on council, which I was lucky enough to win.
We're joined by Luke Lando, Hazel Park City Council member, joining us on the Michigan Megacast. Recently, Hazel Park became the third city in the state of Michigan to decriminalize psychedelic plants and psilocybin mushrooms. As advocates across the state are collecting signatures to put forth a ballot initiative to decriminalize these substances statewide in an upcoming election. Can you talk about your experience? Because you had a particularly unique point of view going into this discussion internally with the city council and externally throughout the city in Hazel Park. Can you talk about your psychedelic plant and psilocybin mushroom experience and how that helped? Those have helped you personally and helped you to frame your opinion and your stance on decriminalization in Hazel Park.
Absolutely. Yes, I'm a consumer as well as a proponent. I've been, consuming psilocybin since probably 2008. I have depression. I suffer from acute anxiety, and I know I'm not unique in that. And while I'm grateful for medication to assist, there's really psilocybin is an extremely therapeutic substance, especially when it comes to people with depression and anxiety. It's used to treat people with addiction. It's used to treat people with PTSD. And I found in my own experience that it was extremely beneficial to just sort of allow me to reframe and sort of recalibrate myself, every year. And having that experience has been extremely beneficial to me. And I think that, for far too long, we've had this stigmatization when it comes to psilocybin, and even previously with marijuana, which is now it's just very, very normal and it's been normalized. So I think making sure that people have the opportunity to utilize these therapeutic plants is important, as well as educating the public on its benefits. So very, very proud to have the position and the ability to help pass something like this. As well as to be able to speak to it, not just as a proponent, but as an elected official, to try to remove some of that stigma and normalize it as much as possible.
Yeah, so let's take a moment and try to remove some of that stigma or give some insight into proper usage of these substances. Because like anything, like any drug, like alcohol, There are ways that you can use them that are safe and that are effective for yourself or with others, and then there are ineffective ways that are dangerous to yourself and dangerous to your community. When people think about psychedelic substances like mushrooms or like psilocybin, they're often thinking about the extreme, these long-standing psychedelic trips, an out-of-body experience, so to speak, that may, in some cases, for some people, facilitate in different ways, and sometimes those can be dangerous or those can be violent. But there are therapeutic elements to the use of these substances as well. Can you speak to that experience that you've had using these substances and how it varies quite significantly, I would imagine, from that stereotypical approach that people often can take to viewing the use of psychedelic substances?
Absolutely. I mean, we've all seen Fear and Loathing in Las Vegas. We've all seen the Cirque du Soleil scene and Knocked Up. Yes, and that exists, and that's what we call a hero dose, where you're abusing the substance when you consume it that way, and it's no different than any other medicine. When you consume way too high of a dose, at that point it's borderline recreational, and that's not what we're talking about. When you use psilocybin or other substances under the entheogenic sort of family, there are safe ways to do it that allows you to access a medical benefit, and that's a bit what we call microdosing, where you do consume a very, very small substance so that you get the therapeutic effects without, tripping or, what we commonly see depicted in movies and media. And it's just like reefer madness. I think a lot of what the opposition will try to do is just really advertise the extreme and the fringe element of these things. And we've all seen the medicinal effects when it comes to proper marijuana usage, and that involves moderation. And we see the same thing with entheogenics, where if you want to receive the medical benefit of it, you need to consume it in a therapeutic way, and that involves small, safe dosages that allow you to manage yourself.
On the topic of recreational uses of substances, there's been some controversy over a proposed event, Spark in the Park, which would be a recreational marijuana festival in Hazel Park. If it's approved, it would take place on June 18th and 19th in the Green Acres Park in Hazel Park. Could draw up to an expected 4,200 people. Some residents, especially parents, have expressed concerns about having an event like this in a park in the Hazel Park community. Can you, give us your thoughts on that event taking place, and also address the concerns of your constituents there in Hazel Park toward this proposed event?
Absolutely. A lot of valid concerns, too. For the listeners at home, Green Acres Park sort of exists on the border of Hazel Park and Ferndale, and it's largely surrounded by a predominantly residential area. So I think the concerns that I've received haven't been with the substance or spirit of marijuana consumption. We're a city with several dispensaries and decriminalized entheogenics, so obviously we're a little bit more progressive in that respect. But when you're throwing an event with 4,200 people in a residential area, there's a lot of very legitimate parking, noise, odor, making sure that the organization is coming in and benefiting the community, making sure that local residents are able to take part, whether it be through food trucks or other things. So a lot of very valid concerns, but also the Spark in the Park organizers have been extremely responsive to council. They've addressed us at, I think, the last two meetings. Any outstanding questions they've taken back to us. There's really a willingness to work with us. And also, these licenses for large public consumption events are not only expensive, but they're difficult to obtain. And, we're just grateful to be considered, but we really need to be careful about how we're doing it, especially on a weekend, heading into a Sunday night event where, a lot of the people in that area do have work the next day. So just making sure that they're balancing the need to promote Hazel Park, but also making sure that our residents are satisfied. So there's still a lot of discussions left to happen. I'm getting feedback not just every day, but almost every hour from residents. So a lot to take in before we end up making a decision on Tuesday.
We're joined by Luke Lando, Hazel Park City Council member on the Michigan Megacast. And this past February, Hazel Park officially banned conversion therapy for minors in the city limits. It was in a unanimous vote, the entire city council voting in the affirmative to ban conversion therapy. Can you talk about the ordinance that was passed to ban this practice and why it was important for the city of Hazel Park to make this decision, whether or not that practice was being perpetrated in Hazel Park?
Absolutely. So that has its roots in the anti-discrimination ordinance that passed when I very first joined council. We passed an ordinance that effectively banned discrimination in public accommodations, housing, and employment on the basis of everything included in the Elliott-Larsen Civil Rights Act, but also extended it to include the LGBTQ population, of which I'm part of. So after that, we really wanted to make sure that we were being equally inclusive to the LGBTQ community when it comes to conversion therapy. And for the listeners at home, conversion therapy is a medically discredited, dangerous practice that is basically pray the gay away or somehow undergo therapy so that you change your sexual orientation, which we all know is not a thing. So making sure that we are protecting particularly the youth of the community was extremely important. So, luckily it's not something that currently has a foothold in Hazel Park, but, there are organizations around where that is something that they're focused in or at least dabbling in. So it was important for us to say, not in our community. Hazel Park City Council is 40% LGBTQ, which is probably among the highest in the state, if not the highest. But also, we have a very, very vibrant, diverse community with a lot of varied interests, and making sure that we're being inclusive of all populations, especially our LGBTQ youth, was extremely important. And I'm extremely grateful that the City Council passed my ordinance.
We're joined by Luke Lando on the Michigan Megacast. He is a Hazel Park City Council member joining us on the program today. Luke, just a few more minutes before we'll say goodbye. At this moment in time, what are some other things that the City Council in Hazel Park may be working on that residents of Hazel Park or neighbors, visitors of the community may want to be keeping an eye on in the near future?
Yeah, it's April, so it's budget season. And Hazel Park has done a lot with a little for an extremely long time. We have a very, very lean budget, and a lot of the reason for that is we have not recovered from the Great Recession. We took a bath with our property values between 2008 and 2010. And because we're hamstringed by the state through Headley and Prop A, we really haven't come close to getting back to that baseline of property tax capture. And property taxes are 40% of our budget. So we are extremely lean, but we're also trying to make sure that we're improving city services, improving construction, bringing people in to help, capture additional sales tax and property tax revenue. So look for that to be happening soon. We're going to be completing our road diet, hopefully this year. We've completed it between 8 and 9 mile, where we've gone from 4 lanes to 3, added in bike lanes, and we're hoping to do that between 9 and 10. That was a little bit on hold over the last year due to the coronavirus pandemic and just bad timing and logistics. But this year we're going to be able to do that. And that's going to really allow us to create a more vibrant downtown commercial corridor similar to adjacent communities like Ferndale. And we'll be able to push that traffic that uses John R. as a thoroughfare, where they're just driving through and not stopping in our community, over to DeQuinder on the east and over to Woodward on the west, so that we're really just making sure that we've got a beautiful, vibrant, walkable downtown area that inspires businesses to come in and set up shop, and for the community to really enjoy the maximum potential of that area.
Luke, thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you. Appreciate your time.